Yo, what's good, YouTube, man? It's Gary with another Fan TV, man. Back at you, another video. Like the content of this video, go and smash that like button. Like the content of this channel, go over here, subscribe, man. Look, so Ravens-Jaguars, 8:20 Sunday Night Football, prime time in Jacksonville. It's going to be a great game. The Jaguars come in 8-5, Ravens 10-3. It's a good game. We got to talk about how the Ravens can win this game, the numbers and everything behind it. So let's get right into it. All right. I talked about the Ravens injury report I didn't say about the Ravens injury report in detail because there wasn't a lot to talk about. Because the Ravens, for one of the first times in a long time, have a full 53-man roster of players practicing. Right. A couple days ago, Tyler Huntley did miss it. He was the only guy that really missed practice. That's because, congratulations to him. He just had a baby boy. So, that's why he missed it. He was there for the birthday of his child. So that's great news for Tyler Huntley. But he's back now. So the Ravens have all of their guys practicing, right? Everybody that's readily available. So all 53 men practicing, okay? The injury report looks like this, right? Kyle Hamilton, questionable. Malik Ham, questionable. Both guys were a full participant in practice on Friday, right? So for me, Kyle Hamilton, I said this before, I would sit him out this game just because we thought the injury was going to be serious last game, right? I get that he was a full participant on Friday, but on Wednesday and Thursday, he was limited, right? So I would sit him out this week, right? Then if next week he's able to go full the whole week of practice, then obviously he can play, right? Because he's back, he's ready to go, right? That's just my personal opinion. He means so much to this defense that I would hate to see him kind of rush back out there and something else happens, right? So that's just my opinion on it. But it's football. Injuries can happen anytime. We know that. All right, for the Jags, right? Jags have a couple guys, several important players out. So Andre Cisco, their safety out. Tyson Campbell, cornerback out. Then they got three guys that's questionable that play a lot of snaps for them. One guy is Trey Herndon, he's a corner, and then two offensive linemen. Ezra Cleveland is questionable, and Walker Little is questionable as well. Not to mention that Christian Kirk, who I would say is probably their most important wide receiver. I don't know how I can really phrase that like that, but because I think Calvin Ridley is obviously a better player, right? But for what Christian Kirk brings to this team, the safety blanket he is kind of for Trevor Lawrence in the passing game as far as in terms of their wide receivers go. He's on IR, so that's a big miss for the Jaguars, right? And that happened a couple weeks ago. So that's a big miss for the Jaguars. They had to find guys like Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, the other guys step up. Evan Ingram, we'll talk about him later though. They have different guys that can step up. The Jaguars in their last three games are 1-2, right? So we got 24-21 win versus the Texans, 34-31 loss versus the Bengals on Monday Night Football, where I thought, honestly, the Jaguars season were over right there because it looked like Trevor Lawrence came down with a very serious injury. He missed the rest of that game, but they came right back out the next week. So, good for them. I'm sure he's still in a great deal of pain, but at least he's able to come back and play, right? And then that's game I'm talking about, 31-27 loss versus the Browns. Joe Flacco had a great game for Cleveland Browns. Still weird to say that. He had a great game for Cleveland, and they went there and they lost, right? So the Jaguars are coming off of two straight defeats to AFC North teams, right? So they're 8-5 on the season. They're still leading their division, so they still have that going for them. But obviously, they want to get back, right? They don't want to keep losing these games, all right? So let's get into the Jaguars defense, all right? Jaguars defense, they allowed 357 yards, 24th in the NFL, but they are pretty good on third down, only allowing a 35% third down conversion rate, okay? Pass defense, 265 yards a game for 31st. They're allowing their opponents to complete 65% of their passes for 20th, but they're only getting 2.3 sacks a game, which is near the bottom of the league for 26th, right? All right. Rushing defense, 92 yards a game allowed. That's fourth in the NFL. Over the last 3 weeks, they have allowed around about 100 yards a game, so there has been an increase. But generally, throughout the season, they've been a really good rushing defense. Okay, statistically speaking. All right, so now for the Jaguars offense, 24 points a game for ninth in the league, 342 yards a game for 11th, 37.5% on third down for 19th, and they have a 57.8 red zone touchdown percentage, which is 11th. Now, putting here on a note that they've been 90% in the red zone for touchdown conversion rate in the last three games. So right now, they're red hot in the red zone, right? I believe versus the Browns in the last game, they went 100% in the red zone return touchdown rate. So they did lose the game, but they are playing well in the red zone, an area that's, the the money downs of the field, right? When you want to get stops, you want to hold people to 3 points, right? So we gotta watch out for that, okay? Passing offense, 242 yards a game for ninth on about 36 attempts a game for 11th. They are allowing 2.5 sacks a game for 19th, so that's something the Ravens can exploit. And as far as the rushing offense, right? About 100 yards a game, equals 99.8 for 24th, but 28 attempts a game, which is 10th. So they're trying to run the ball, but they haven't been very successful at it. So if we do that, that's about 3.5 yards to carry. You generally want to be at that 4 yards to carry plus mark. So, you run it 3 times, that's a first down, right? The Jaguars are kind of falling below that right now, or right at that mark. So I don't want to see a game where the Ravens have a team that can't run the ball really effectively, run the ball on them, right? We've kind of seen, I saw that versus the Bengals. And then the Rams last week were a good running team, and they ran the ball all over the Ravens, at least for the first half, right? So we saw that. So the Ravens' run defense has to be up to snuff and ready because, listen, the Jaguars have a good passing attack. Don't let the run game get going to, right? Make them one-dimensional. All right, so keys to the game, right? So let's hop right into it. Keys to the game. For the Ravens, I'm going to go with that. The Ravens passing offense needs to take the lead again, right? Now, we saw last week versus the Rams that in the game where it was raining outside, right? So we kind of all expected that, the run game would take the lead. I did say in my keys to the game last week that I did want to see some more downfield passing, and the Ravens did that, right? They had multiple big explosive plays down the field, okay? I think this is the kind of game where the Jaguars, they're going to be out without Andre Cisco. They're going to be without Tyson Campbell, right? So they're going to be out with some major pieces in their secondary, okay? The Ravens passing game has to be effective, has to be able to lead that way again. So that's on guys like Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, obviously Lamar Jackson, he's going to do his thing. But the pass catchers for the Ravens have to step up. This is a game for them right here, right? This is a game where we can get what we want down the field. Now, just because this is going to lead into point two. Just because the Jaguars don't have the greatest pass defense, don't forget about the run as well, and that's going to lead right into point two. And that is, once again, more touches for Keaton Mitchell, right? I feel like I have to say this every couple of weeks. I don't know why. Maybe it's, like I said, maybe I've said this before. Maybe it's the fact that the Ravens, they don't want to burn them out. They want to give them too many touches, this and that. It's at the point right now that Keaton Mitchell is the best running back that's readily available for this offense, right? I said before that if J.K. Dobbins was available, he would have had a monster year in this offense. This is the kind of offense that J.K. Dobbins would excel in. Keaton Mitchell's skill set is similar, but he's faster. You know what I mean? So, he's faster than J.K. Dobbins. That's pretty much the main difference between their skill sets, okay? So, he's excelling in this offense. I think last week he only had about 10 touches. I think he had 9 carries and maybe 1 catch, something like that. But it was for about 6 yards a touch, right? So I think he had 10 touches, 62 yards, if I remember correctly, just off the top of my head. So that's 6 yards a touch, right? He needs to touch the ball more. Does that mean we forget about Gus Edwards? No, of course not. He's your power back. He's your bruiser. Gus Edwards should be involved in the offense, right? But this idea that Keaton Mitchell has to take a back seat to that, I just don't agree with, right? Keaton Mitchell needs to be an active and engaged part of this offense for the Ravens to be their best offensive selves, right? We've seen that, okay? When you have a guy at running back that can hit home runs, he has to play. All right, so now I'm not saying Keith Mitchell gets 25, 30 touches. Of course not, right? He's not that kind of running back. But 10 is too little. All right, he needs to be somewhere 15, 17, 18 touches, right? Maybe even 20 if the game gets to that kind of way in his favor, right? He needs to touch the ball a lot more. All right. He's explosive. Simple as that. When you have explosive playmakers, give them the ball in space, and let them make plays, right? So that's how I feel about Keith Mitchell. Okay, so for me, that's the 2 keys of the game for the offense, right? Passing game, lead the show. This Jaguars passing secondary right now is not very good. I saw Jake Brown and light them up, right? Now, obviously, Jamar Chase is over there, guys like that. But I saw Jake Brown light them up. I saw Joe Flacco last week light them up. They had multiple blown coverages where David Njoku got loose for, I believe, at least two 30-plus yard touchdowns. They might have been 40-plus, honestly. But just completely busted coverages by the Jaguars, okay? So this game, Ravens pass offense, take the forefront, expose a Jaguars defense that has not been good against the pass, right? Don't make their weakness into a strength all of a sudden, right? They haven't been good against the pass, okay? And then, like I said, more Keith Mitchell, right? He needs to play more. I know some of it is because the Ravens might have concerns about him pass blocking, right? So, when it's passing downs, can he pick up a blitzer, right? And that's legitimate concerns, right? But Justice Hill isn't a world beater at picking up the blitz, right? So if Justice Hill can play, Keith Mitchell can play. All right, so get him out there some more. All right. Um, Now for defense, right? Number one, this is why I said we're gonna talk about Evan Ingram again. Number one is contain Evan Ingram, right? Since Christian Kirk, well, I'm gonna say since he went down because this is going back 3 games. Christian Kirk went down in the Bengals game, which was 2 games ago. So, but in the last 3 games, right? I'm gonna read you Evan Ingram's numbers, okay? 29 targets, 25 receptions, 226 yards, 3 touchdowns, okay? So if we're talking about a guy who is clearly Trevor Lawrence is looking to right now, it's Evan Ingram, right? So we're talking about 8 catches a game for about, I'm sorry, hold on one second, for about 75 yards a game, okay? So it's very clear that even before Christian Kirk went down, he's kind of been heating up, but especially these last couple of games, Trevor Lawrence is looking for Evan Ingram. All right, I have Evan Ingram on my fantasy team, and I've seen the numbers. All right, he's looking for him. I believe last game versus the Browns, I believe he had 12 targets, 9 catches. Okay, so the Ravens must be aware of Evan Ingram. All right, so he's emerged. Like I said, he's emerged as the main pass catcher since the injury to Christian Kirk. Calvin Ridley is still out there. He's still a great receiver. But right now, I would say the main pass threat, Evan Ingram, right? So you Ravens have to be aware of him at all times, okay? Now, number 2, Travis Etienne out of the backfield, right? Travis Etienne ranks 6th among running backs this season in receiving yards, okay? So that means I think he's only behind guys like, your Christian McCaffreys, Breece Halls, guys that are known for catching a lot of passes, okay? So he's up there this year. So six in receiving yards for running backs is a good number. So the Ravens have to be aware of him coming out the backfield. So when I watch the Jaguars play, their run game, Travis Etienne is a very versatile running back, but their run game doesn't necessarily scare me. When I see him get out there out the backfield, I think that he's a really good receiving back. I mean, if you remember his rookie year when Urban Meyer was the head coach and it was a dumpster fire, right? Their plans was to make Travis Etienne like a makeshift slot receiver, just to get him on the field more, right? I think they still had James Robinson at the time. So he's a guy with a really good receiving skill set as the main point. The Ravens have to be aware of that. Okay, that's the guy that's like, you got to watch out for out the backfield. Okay, so Travis Etienne has a really good year. I think he's top 5 in rushing too as well. I think he has like over 800 yards rushing as well. So the run game overall might not be that effective for the Jaguars, but he is still having a good season himself, right? So got to watch out for Travis Etienne, particularly out of the backfield. So what does that lead to? The X factors to the game. To me, the X factors to this game, when I read all of these things, when I look at the Jaguars play, is the linebackers in coverage. So Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, this is a big game for you, right? I mean, all games are big for these 2 guys, especially Roquan, leader of the defense, Patrick Queen right there behind them. But when you look at a tight end that can catch the ball like Evan Ingram, when you look at a running back that gets out the field like Travis Etienne, the Ravens and their linebackers have to be aware of these guys. So the linebacker coverage skills are going to be very, very important. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be man-to-man coverage every single play of the game. Obviously not. But when these opportunities arise, when these things arise where you are guarding these guys, spotlight's going to be on you, right? If we think back to the Bengals game, what was that, Thursday Night Football? Yeah. When we think back to that Bengals game, before Joe Burrow got hurt, right? Before he got hurt, they were attacking the Ravens linebackers, right? Joe Mixon was getting catches. Was it Hudson or Drew Sample? Whoever was the Bengals tight end, right? They were getting off too as well, right? So they made a point of emphasis to attack the Ravens linebackers in coverage. Now, when I look at the Jaguars, they have 2 guys, your tight end and your running back, who guards these guys, linebackers. So to me, that's the main X factor. How does Patrick Queen hold up in coverage? If these guys hold up in coverage well, it's good news for the Ravens, all right? If they don't, could be a long night, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. So, all right, that's my thoughts. That's my opinion on it. So, as far as score prediction, Thursday football. I'm talking about the last game. Sunday night football in Jacksonville. How I think the Ravens will do. I think the Ravens will win this game extend their record to 11-3. I'm going to go with the Ravens win. I really think about these on the spot. It really, you know what I mean? So I'll go 34-23 Ravens. I think last week I said 11-point win. This week I'm going to go with the same thing. It just kind of feels like the Ravens should win this. So I'll go 34-23 Ravens in a game that's should be a good one for the team, man. So give me your thoughts, give me your comments on it, man. We'll talk about it there. But it's Gabriel. This is Fan TV. I'm out.